Hey there. Ready to dive into some financial alchemy?
Oh, yeah.
Today we're tackling a book that really gets into the nitty-gritty of how markets work,
Okay.
especially those moments when things shift dramatically.
It's amazing how events that seem totally unrelated can set off chain reactions in the financial world.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what financial alchemy digs into.
Really gets into it.
It's not just about numbers.
Yeah,
It's about the psychology driving the market,
absolutely.
those historical turning points that still ripple through the system today.
We're going to unpack this idea that markets aren't always rational.
Interesting.
They're influenced by human behavior, our emotions, our biases,
Yeah.
at least as much as by cold, hard logic,
Yeah, the book makes this point right away,
right off the bat.
and it really resonated with me.
Yeah.
Think about it. How many times have you seen a stock price go haywire
Oh, all the
and
time.
thought, wait, what just happened?
Financial alchemy compares the whole boom and bust cycle to a living organism.
Hmm.
With stages of growth, maturity, and decline,
Right.
you can actually see this visually in 2-1. 2-1,
I'll have to check that out.
which maps out the life cycle of a stock.
So it's like understanding these cycles
Yeah,
can help you anticipate what might be coming next,
exactly.
even if things seem chaotic in the moment.
Even if it seems crazy.
Yeah.
And that's where things get really interesting.
Got it.
The book introduces this concept called reflexivity,
Reflexivity.
which is basically this feedback loop between how people perceive something and how it actually performs.
Okay, so give me an example.
Sure.
How does this reflexivity thing actually play out in the real world?
Well, think about the rise of REITs,
REITs.
real estate investment trusts.
Okay.
The book argues that investor enthusiasm, the belief in this new concept, actually fueled their growth,
Interesting.
even if the underlying real estate market wasn't necessarily booming at the same rate.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, kind of.
People believe it, so it happens.
Bas-
Even if it doesn't totally make sense on paper.
That's the idea.
Wow.
And that's why understanding these psychological factors can be so important when you're trying to make sense of the market.
All right, so we've got this idea that markets can be irrational,
Yeah.
driven by human psychology,
Absolutely.
and that there's this reflexivity thing
Uh-huh.
where perception shapes reality.
Great.
Where do we go from here?
Let's dive into some real-world examples of major market shifts.
Okay.
Moments in history when this interplay between psychology and economics really came into play.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
Hit me with some market mayhem.
Uh-huh.
So walk me through a historical example where this whole reflexivity thing really took hold.
One that comes to mind is the 1974 DataQuant market crash.
DataPoint.
This company, DataQuant, actually had strong fundamentals,
Okay.
but a shift in investor perception, a swing from optimism to pessimism, sent the stock price plummeting.
What spooked investors so badly?
Concerns about competition and changes in technology started to circulate. Even though the company itself was doing well,
Right.
this wave of fear and doubt really took hold.
Wow.
It's a classic example of how sentiment can override the actual numbers.
It's crazy how quickly that can happen.
It really is.
One minute everyone's bullish, the next they're heading for the exits.
Right, and financial alchemy points to another great example.
Yeah.
The Japanese stock market in the 1980s.
Oh, yeah.
It experienced this huge boom, but it was built on shaky ground.
So what fueled that boom and what caused it to go bust?
Well, you had easy credit, a ton of speculative investment, and this widespread belief that the Japanese economy was unstoppable.
Sounds familiar.
It all contributed to this massive surge in asset prices, a classic bubble.
It sounds like the market got way ahead of itself,
It did.
detached from what was really happening in the economy.
Exactly, and that's a common thread in these market shifts.
Okay.
You see this disconnect between what assets are valued at and the underlying economic reality. It creates this inherent instability that eventually has to correct itself.
So if history shows us that markets can be irrational,
Yeah.
that sentiment can drive prices more than fundamentals.
Unfortunately, that's often the case.
Does that mean we're just doomed to repeat these cycles of booms and busts forever?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
And it leads us to another crucial element explored in financial alchemy, the role of central banks.
Okay, bring on the central bankers.
The book examines the actions of institutions like the Federal Reserve,
Right.
particularly their policies in the 1980s.
The 80s, huh?
They were aimed at controlling inflation.
Makes sense.
But some argue that they actually set the stage for future market bubbles.
So even when they're trying to do the right thing,
Right.
Their actions can have these unintended consequences that ripple through the system.
Precisely. And that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating.
It is fascinating.
There's this complex interplay of forces at work.
Yeah.
And it's not always easy to predict how things will play out.
So where does that leave us?
Good question.
If markets are this complex, if psychology plays such a huge role,
Right.
how are we supposed to make sense of it all?
That's where financial alchemy really shines.
Okay, how so?
It doesn't just present these ideas, it
Right.
offers a framework for understanding them.
Okay, give me the takeaway.
Sure.
What can we actually learn from all this?
The core message is that financial markets are these dynamic, ever-evolving systems
Go ahead.
influenced by both rational and irrational factors.
So we can't just rely on logic and numbers.
Not entirely, no.
It's not about finding a magic formula to predict the future.
Right, because if it were that easy, we'd all be rich.
Exactly. But understanding historical patterns, especially this idea of reflexivity,
Okay.
can give you a huge advantage.
Or so.
It's about recognizing how emotions, biases, and crowd behavior can influence market movements.
So it's about being aware of these psychological factors.
Not letting them completely dictate your decisions, right?
Right.
Because it's so easy to get swept up in the hype.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's the euphoria of a bull market or the panic of a bear market,
It happens all the time.
recognizing those emotional responses is a big first step.
It really is.
It's like you have to take a step back and say,
Yeah.
okay, is this rational or am I just getting caught up in the moment?
Exactly. And that leads us to another important point.
What's that?
Having a well-defined investment strategy.
So a strategy helps us stay grounded when the market's going crazy?
Yeah. Having a plan, especially when fear and greed start taking over.
Oh, those are powerful emotions.
It really are.
Can really mess with your head when money's involved.
Oh, absolutely. That's why a solid strategy, sticking to your plan,
Sticking to it.
helps you avoid those impulsive moves.
Don't go chasing the latest hot stock tip just because everyone else is.
Yeah, you'll get burnt.
Right. And on the flip side, don't panic and sell everything when the market dips.
Easier said than done, right?
Yeah. Way easier said than done.
Especially when you see your portfolio shrinking.
Oh, it's painful.
It's about having that long-term vision, understanding that volatility is normal.
Oh,
It's
man.
part of the game.
So ride out those market storms. Focus on the horizon.
Exactly. And accept that you're going to make mistakes along the way.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Everybody does.
No one's batting 1,000 in the market.
Nope.
The key is to learn from those mistakes. Use them to refine your strategy. Become a more informed investor.
That's the goal, right?
It's all about continuous learning, right? This financial alchemy book is a great starting
A
point,
great foundation.
but it doesn't end there.
No, there are tons of resources out there to help you navigate the market. But the most important tool is your own critical thinking.
Don't just blindly follow the crowd. Do your own research. Question those assumptions.
Absolutely. And be wary of anyone claiming to have all the answers.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, there's no crystal ball.
Right.
No guaranteed path to riches.
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. Successful investing is about managing risk, making disciplined decisions based on sound principles,
Okay.
not chasing quick wins.
It's about aligning your financial choices with your goals, your values, your long-term vision.
That's what it's all about.
Well, this deep dive has certainly given me a lot to think about.
What you go?
We've covered so much ground, from the irrationality of markets to the power of reflexivity.
Those historical market crashes, the role of central banks.
We've explored how our own psychology can influence our investment decisions, how important it is to develop a sound strategy and stick to it.
A lot to digest.
It's been a fascinating journey, and hopefully it's empowered our listeners to approach investing with a more informed and critical mindset.
I hope so.
To understand that financial markets are complex systems, but they're not completely unpredictable.
Right.
There are patterns, there are forces at play that we can learn to recognize.
That is the...
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into financial alchemy, I want to leave you with this final thought. If reflexivity is this powerful force, this feedback loop between perception and reality,
Yeah.
can we actually use it to our advantage?
Interesting question.
Can we learn to identify those moments when market sentiment is starting to shift,
Okay.
to spot opportunities before they become widely recognized? That's the challenge, the potential reward of understanding financial alchemy.
Lots to think about.
That's something for all of us to ponder as we continue our journey into the fascinating world of financial markets. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and happy investing.